Well, this is our last night out, and we're staying at the Mirror Lake State Park in Wisconsin. One of the last things that we wanted to do on this trip was to visit a historic 68-year-old, if that qualifies as historic, Wisconsin Supper Club. And we're on our way to do that just now. We're going to go to the Ishnala in Baraboo, Wisconsin. So if you're not familiar with Baraboo, it is the water park mecca for the upper Midwest, vacation land extraordinaire. And there are water parks from upscale to as kitsy as you'd like. Well, sadly, we just ran into a lady on the trail who informed us that it is now 4:30 and the wait is 2 hours. So I am looking forward to a brandy old fashioned, which is a Wisconsin way of making an old fashioned. And we're going to enjoy that on the patio and wait for our turn. So we made it to the Ishnala, and it is in fact a 2-hour wait. Fortunately, we found a little cubby hole at the bar. We got a fantastic view of the lake. We got a nice little spot to sit. I don't think we're going to have any trouble waiting our 2 hours for dinner tonight.
So she's kind of like she's a psychic, not a medium. You're going to have a scratch.
So we came up through like Bama, then Golden High and all that. And then we go south and we're going to go back off the same road and go up to Lassen National Park. We had an absolutely great dinner at the Ishnala. Brandy, old fashions were in high demand all over the restaurant. We've got a fantastic fire tonight. Got an absolutely beautiful night with a stunning moon. So we had just a great night last night at the Ishnala. It's one of those places where when you go into the bar, you sit down, you're surrounded by friends. Everybody's talking to everybody. Complete strangers are having great conversations. Loud, it's boisterous, and it's just fun. And so we had a great time. And that brings up a point that I just want to remind everybody, and I'm sure that you do this, but public service announcement. When you do traveling, when you go around, try the different places. Try to get into the mood. Try different things, whether it's activities. You know, I love food, as you can clearly see. I'll recommend, when you're in the Southwest, a green chili cheeseburger. But there are things like steamer clams when we were in Oregon, or the search for something with huckleberries that we were on in Montana because someone said you have to have huckleberry. So just that kind of thing, and enjoy it and get into the spirit. And right now we're on the Wisconsin Cheese Trail. It's a loop of creameries and dairies that make different kinds of cheeses down around Madison, Monroe, Wisconsin. I think there's a common theme in the Overland community right now that the only good campsite is a dispersed campsite. And I can appreciate where that comes from. We had some really phenomenal dispersed campsites on this trip. If you've watched the video on closing the Alpine Loop, you saw a campsite with the view of the Red Mountains. Or if you watched our north rim of the Grand Canyon, you saw that just stunning campsite we had on the north rim. But I think to an extent that's a little myopic, because we also had some phenomenal campsites at the parks. And I'm talking about the North Rim campsite at the Grand Canyon, and even better, Kintla Lake in Glacier, and the absolutely beautiful Mahogany Flats in Death Valley. And at that campsite, we were the only person there. So don't discount the parks. They have really, really nice campsites, and the opportunity in some of the parks to meet and talk to people can't be discounted. So a nice mix of the two, I think, is the way to go. If you want solitude, dispersed camping is the way to do it. But again, don't discount the parks. Well, sadly, we are on our final leg home. The months seem to go like that. But there were a few observations that I wanted to pass on as we think about the trip. And believe me, a month to a lot of overlanders is nothing. So, you know, I'm not trying to say that this was a massive, epic trip or anything, but it's the first time I've taken a month-long trip in 30 years. So, for me, it was awesome. So I think the first observation, if you remember, Will Rogers had a saying one time, "I've never met a man I didn't like." And I'll expand that to more modern times. I never met a person I didn't like. And one thing that really struck me, particularly in light of the current political environment in the U.S., is how wonderful everybody we met was. How friendly, how helpful. We'd strike up conversations, and everybody wanted to know about the trip, where have we been. Everybody wanted to share where their favorite trips have been, and we just had great conversations. And I think it would be good for all of us to just remember what Roy Rogers said, and that people are fantastic wherever you go, and just expect that, and that's what you'll get. And the other thing really that struck me is how the Jeep amped that up. Everywhere we went, whether it was a gas station, whether it was a trail, a park, a parking lot, everywhere we went, people wanted to know about the Jeep. I've got a Jeep too. You know, what have you done to it? Where have you been? I did that trail too. You know, oh my gosh, how do you like that Jeep? One day I'll have one of those. Just such a great conversation starter. A Jeep community was great. You know, how do you like those tires, right? I think they're going to be my next set of tires. I have the Cooper STT Pros, by the way. So, you know, I think that was one of the most refreshing things about this trip, is just meeting everybody and having these great conversations, and everybody just was so friendly. So I think that's the first takeaway from this trip, is just step back from the media for a bit and remember how great people are and how we all have so much in common. Another thing I was forced to discover on this trip, and if you recall my initial video when we started the trip, we were extremely limited on space because we dropped our son off at college and had to take all of his stuff as well in the Wrangler. So what did I discover? I discovered that dehydrated food can be really, really good. Now, I'm talking about the dehydrated food that we made at home ourselves, and I'll link that book below. That stuff was really good. Uber convenient, kept the waste down to a minimum, and I think was really, really good. And it's going to be part of my kit going forward. It's convenient, especially if you mix in some that require just rehydration with cold water, because that makes a really convenient way to have lunch when you're on the trail or traveling. So dehydrated food surprised me. We are just pulling into the neighborhood. The trip is over, but we had a fantastic time. We appreciate everyone who joined us and followed along. We hope you enjoyed it. Thanks especially to all of our subscribers. We do appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed, take a moment to hit the subscription button in the lower right-hand corner. We would appreciate that. It is a big help. And as always, take care, and we'll see you outdoors.